This is Drop Tent Media Network.
Late Bloomers with comedians Karen Schwartz and Sandra Doss. Everybody, welcome to one more episode. I believe it's our 10th episode of the most consistent podcast ever, the Late Bloomers podcast, with comedians Karen Schwartz
and Sandra Doss.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So, yeah. Today we're going to kind of talk about a lot of things as usual, but mainly we were thinking about discussing mainly comedic personas. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's kind of a concept that a lot of people have different definitions for. So what do you think about that, the notion of comedic personas, Karen?
I feel like the idea of creating a celebrity persona in general is something where I think I'm seeing a lot more of lately. You know, we've got people who are coming out as like influencers, like people who maybe I would know in everyday life one way. All of a sudden I see that they're putting out content and they've got this whole other press package about themselves that they're generating with the way they present themselves or their style, their way of dressing, or even changing the way that they talk. And I think celebrities in general have been doing this for a very long time. I mean, musicians definitely. A lot of like the craziest and like most over the top musicians. They go home and have probably a very normal life with the family and all that kind of stuff. And it wouldn't be any different for comedy, if you were to really break it down and look at it. So are there any particular, like, do you have any particular like favorite or standout celebrity personas that
well, I don't, I'm not a big fan of characters, like people who perform in character and then off stage. I mean, they're funny, but I find that a little sad because I would like to know more about the person,
like the real person. Like, does it feel like it's not genuine, or
no? It's just that. How can I explain this? I enjoy them and they're funny and everything,
right?
But then it's not a different version. It is kind of an exaggerated version of the actual person, but they usually model it after a grandma or somebody, or somebody completely different.
Right.
And they're unrecognizable, and I don't know. I like to know more. I like to see that unfolding of a person without a costume. I like to see that, how they transform. I think that's more interesting. And that's kind of what I'm going for. I think that's what most comedians are going for, because most of us are kind of an exaggerated or heightened version of ourselves, for comedic effect. Like, for instance, I just came from the pool because I have to do some swimming for a shoulder injury or anyway, some water workouts. And somebody saw me there and they said, "Oh, you're the comedian." But then they saw me doing this. Actually, I was very flattered. They went to one of our shows in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
Neat.
Yeah, Karen and I do a show every month on the first Thursday of every month. And this person was in the audience, and this lady came and said, "Oh, you're the comedian." And they say, "So comedy, really? You're a comedian, and you're here, like, doing live?" And I'm like, "Yeah, comedians are like everybody else. In fact, this is how we get material." Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, I better not do anything ridiculous because I'll be I'm like, you could be, but don't worry. We do many other things. Sometimes we just get little hands like this and do
By
this.
the way, we gotta work on that. I gotta teach you the proper method because you attach them to your thumbs, and then you wrap your sleeve around to hide the evidence.
The finger with red, by the way.
Yeah, well, I know. That's what's tough because I have nail polish on too, so it's really hard to hide the.
Well, it's kind of unfair because they don't have tan little hands.
Yeah.
I have to make them more natural. I got like I don't know, like some like foundation or something. But I have to get something permanent.
Yeah, we gotta adjust yours.
Them look more like me.
Yeah, because we don't want them to look ridiculous. No. You know what I mean? They gotta be a match.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I completely.
No. Can we try to high five here?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know if we can. Ooh, I don't know.
Like right on the camera?
Anyway, that's fun.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Am I in frame?
You're definitely in frame.
Okay. No, the hand. Who knows? Okay, I'm getting rid of the hands because now everybo's in my finger.
They've seen it. It'll be fun. It was fun for me. I don't know.
I don't know. Your little hands are so natural.
Oh.
I think yes, it is. It's really weird because I have one hand done and the other hand I'm not.
Wow.
And that's my process, people. That's my. Yeah, some comedians tie their wardrobe to their style comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, that's one avenue, and it gets the audience used to you looking that way. And remember, you'll say, "Oh, who was that lady with the feather boa, or the lady with the the long pink dress?" If you always wear that. So that kind of makes you easy to remember. And some comedians do that. Or a wig or whatever. And that's interesting. Who knows? I might end up doing something like that. I might be the lady that goes with one hand painted and the other one, unpainted.
I mean, I've seen different degrees of the stage costuming, idea. Very. I mean, if you were to take let's look at Chica Loca.
Right.
He wears those bright, iconic, like the pumps, the bright pink pumps, pairs with the matching leather jacket, and it's like boom, and that's just her look, and it's cool for stage. It gives her like a trademark, like an iconography about her brand, but she's not. But it doesn't trap her in any kind of particular set. Like she could still write and perform, her material, but not like trapped in a boundary of like her outfit doesn't. I don't think it limits what she can do on stage as far as like who she is, right? So I lean more toward that type of a persona.
Yeah, I agree.
Like leaning into that kind of a thing because. If you were to take somebody else who creates like a whole character, such as like I think like earlier when you were referencing somebody in a full costume, like if you were to look at like Troy doing like Aunt Mary Pat.
Yeah.
That's very specific. And,
it's funny. It's very funny and I love
hilarious.
it. Oh, no, but I'm like,
yeah,
I don't recognize him really because I haven't met him.
Well, and if we saw him at the pool, like, would you even know? You know what I mean? And so, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not so sure I would. So, I think
maybe he wants that. Some people don't want to have to talk to people.
Yeah, some people like to keep those two parts of their life, more separate.
Because the truth is that we comedians. We want attention, and that's why we're doing this, Yeah, we can't. That's something nobody can deny.
Yeah.
And so, being recognizable is part of what feeds, our engine to be funny or to perform better or whatever. It gives you feedback. Right. Whether they say, "Oh, you sucked," or "Hey, you were really funny." Or even when they call you by the name of a different comedian, because I've seen that among some famous lady comedians that look very much alike
Oh, okay.
and are more or less in the same age group. People call one by the name of the other. They get them mistaken. And I think they're used to it. What can you do? But yeah, I like it when people say, "Oh, you're the comedian," or "I saw your show." Man, I liked it when she said, "I went to see your show." That's the part that I liked.
Well, yeah,
You know,
that's huge.
I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, good. Did you like it?" Say, "Yes, yes, I like that you had all kinds of voices, different voices." And I said, "Exactly. That's what we want. That's exactly what we want."
Yeah.
And speaking of voices, that is one thing that's very tied to the comedic persona, because for a lot of people, both words are synonyms. And I don't think they are, but they're closely related for sure. What do you think of your comedic voice?
Of mine.
Have you found it? Do you think you have?
I
Or
think I'm getting there.
yeah,
I think, when the times in natural conversation when I've cracked somebody up and they were like, oh, right there, that pause or the way you said that, like, that's what made that funny. I try to make myself remember that so that I know to use that when I'm on stage and not just say it like I'm just telling this group of people something. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm finding it. It's as far as hearing it as it's coming out of my mouth and being like, oh yeah, like that. Like, no, I'm definitely not there. So,
yeah,
but at the same time though, I'm definitely never going to be like somebody who like changes my actual voice, like in a Gilbert Godfrey kind of a way, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like I wouldn't deliberately have like this whole separate put on voice for the stage that I wouldn't use if, I just bumped into you somewhere and turn, oh, hi. Like that's, I think I just recently watched the Gilbert Godfrey documentary. It's called Gilbert, and it was very beautifully done, like just tearjerker, like excellent way of it. Like, it's just so neat how this man who always had that persona, that voice, and that big over the top, that that whole character that he always was on stage. Just the juxtaposition of who he was on stage, and then just so sensitively like showing like who he was behind the scenes, like going from like kind of like an awkward loner, but very much connected to his own family, like his sisters and his parents, but then like seeing that develop into like him becoming a husband and a father, and like just those moments with him and his family where, he was a very normal person, I mean, just like a very, and it was just, I really enjoyed seeing that. So, and it's,
well, one thing is like the actual voice, and that's definitely, a literal voice in the literal sense.
yeah,
But more the voice of, this is me, this is my style. And I've read that it takes years to discover. And a comedian friend who has a podcast, interviewed Sam Morril, and he was talking about how he discovered his persona like 6 or 7 years in. So that's interesting. I wonder if it changes with comedians who have started later, as is our case.
it's a very good point.
Just because we've had more life experiences, we've been here longer and have gone through, the whole life, marriage, work, kids, in your case, divorce, older kids growing.
Yeah, adult kids.
Kids becoming adults.
26 years at the same school. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right. And so I wonder if it's interesting because he talked about that, and then other people talk more about the wardrobe or the actual sound of their voice, like Gilbert Gottfried or Bob Goldthwait. Is that?
Both way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And those really, they really alter the way
Oh,
they
yeah.
see. They're,
Oh, yeah.
how they, they seem anxious, and or what's his name, Richard Lewis. I don't know if you've seen him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He passed away, I think.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's another. I forget his first name. The last name is Lewis also, and he's always like complaining and gripey. And he's always with Kathleen Madigan.
Okay.
They're good friends. I think and I forget his first name, but he's like complaining and always complaining on stage about something. And he seems to be about to have a heart attack on stage. So I guess he injects emotion, and that is his persona, someone with that type of emotion. And
Lewis Black. Do you mean Lewis Black? Lewis Black and Kathleen
Lewis Black. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I totally didn't just check my phone over here off camera to find out.
Yeah, well, I saw you did, and I'm like, she's gonna get it.
But I
She's gonna get it right.
I was thinking, like, she made Lewis Black, and then I just wanted to double check. And yes, definitely Lewis Black with that.
Lewis Black.
Just how over the top, like aggravated he was all the time.
Yeah.
Starting off on those rants, and which is what just made it funny out of the gate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is very different. And it's exhausting too. For me, it would be. So you imagine? I don't know if he does 2 shows per night. I don't think so.
Okay.
You know how some comedians do like 2 shows, and I don't know if maybe he goes to theaters and not to comedy clubs. At Helium or at Punchline, they have 2 shows per night. And depending on how much energy you expend, man, that's, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's even just that and less of a, even if you were to look at it as just like just on a personal, just the way we interact with our audience level.
Yeah.
I had the privilege last night. I've got to see Gaspar Randazzo in Washington, D.C., and he did some incredibly funny crowd work, just riffing off of a couple of guys in the front row. And he just really had a lot of fun with them. And the whole show, and everybody enjoyed it. The crowd was into it. It was definitely crowd work where no one felt offended. Everyone was definitely laughing along, like heartily. Like it was just a very fun time for everybody there. But then even after the show ended and after the meet and greets and the pictures and the hugs and all the things, and backstage, it was like, yeah, they thought it was funny, right? Nobody was offended, right? And we were like, oh my gosh, no, like everybody loved it. And I think it's so funny how on stage we can be this persona where, if we do any kind of crowd work, we might like pull somebody into the act a little bit by, a little bit of banter back and forth, and it's all in the name of fun. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and we do want our audiences to love us. Like we want to make sure we're good with them. We don't want to leave anybody mad. Like, and that stuff kind of like lives in your head rent free, like long after it even happens. Cause in that moment you're like, okay, I kind of got to go for this cause it's like right there and it's funny. But then as soon as the words leave your mouth, you're like, oh shit, I didn't lose them. Right. Like I didn't lose them. They still like me. Right. They still like me. Right. So it's a lot, and I almost wonder if some of the persona is like self-protective, because if you're on stage portraying a character that isn't actually really you, but someone you created, you could always walk away from it like, well, that's like that separation between you and the audience. It's like, oh, well, they're not really upset with me. They're upset with this made up character I just put in front of them. And,
that's when you make it really clear, that like a clear distinction.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get there. It's fun. It's a fun journey. It's definitely a fun journey of discovery, of self-discovery. And as far as crowd work, I went to see Ian Bagg I don't know if you are familiar with his comedy, but I don't think he always did 100% crowd work, but he does now because people like it. I think he
Mhm.
started getting popular on social media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, YouTube. And yeah, I don't need to tell people what social media is. Well, who knows? If somebody, one of our listeners is like 90, maybe. So there you have it. That's social media. But I
Mhm.
digress. Ian Bagg, his entire show is crowd work.
That's
And I
amazing.
was like,
Wow.
I had never seen, I know some comedians do it, but I had never seen live a show where they did that.
Mhm.
So I went to see him at Punchline with my husband. And we had a great time. And he did it so, what seemed like a breeze, very effortlessly. And everybody was having fun. And most people knew him from social media.
Mhm.
And it was over an hour of crowd work, Karen. And it was really refreshing because he's fun. He's very playful. And I thought, okay. So, lately when I go see a fellow comedian, it's more of a learning experience, like a field trip just to learn what's working for them, how they do this, how they,
Oh yeah.
connect.
Mhm.
Yeah, I recommend his videos. You'll love him. Yeah. So crowd work, yeah, I don't know. I understand that Matt Rife does a lot of crowd work as well, but I don't know if he does 100% of his show, in crowd work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
What,
interesting.
which,
What's
no,
that?
oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to comment about that idea of when we go to see, when we go to see the greats, like how we feel like it's a field trip, like we're doing homework, and in a way, and yeah, because it's interesting. It's like, well, with me being an art teacher, when I look at an artwork that I really admire, and I think, oh gosh, wouldn't it be really neat to be able to teach this to my students? Maybe have them make their own take on the same type of the same type of art form. The longer you're doing something, you do sort of learn those decoding tricks. Like you start to look at it and you're like, okay, this is how it was made. This is what they would use. This might have been the first step, the second step, third step. And when, like, I often feel now as an audience member when when I find myself laughing really hard at something, I kind of in my head I'm like, okay, they did the setup here, the misdirect was here, they laid some
Right.
groundwork here, then they did the callback here, and then they did it, and I'm I'm replaying it in my head, but I'm replaying it with what the moves are called, and not just like replaying it in my head, well, as it's intended, which is just like without.
Yeah, you're not replaying the sequence of events.
I'm
You're
replaying
kind
it.
of making a mental note
I'm replaying it like
of what they
with the
did.
plays. I'm
Yeah.
replaying it with the plays, like, oh, they physically moved over here, then they did this, and that's
Yeah.
So, and it helps me appreciate what they're doing more, though, too. Like it doesn't lose. It doesn't lose any magic for me when I do that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when I look at somebody really great, and I'm trying to decode how they did that.
Right.
I It's not like it loses any magic. I'm still completely swept up, and if anything, I'm more in awe because I'm like, damn, that's how they built that, and that's awesome. Like I admire it more.
Yeah, same here. I think, yeah, we're looking more for those little techniques or vehicles to
Mhm.
connect with the audience. And
Yeah.
sorry, I dropped something here. Yeah, and it makes it more interesting, because we're looking for more inside baseball technical stuff that
Yeah.
civilians are not looking for.
Mhm.
We enjoy it on different levels, I think. I
Mhm.
think. And now, of course, because I talk about it with my husband so much, he's also looking for these things. Like, what did you think? Did you think this worked? Oh yeah, yeah. So it is very interesting how they're, that's a persona too. I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
that's a persona
Mhm.
because in the case of Ian Bagg, I see a playful guy that likes sports, and that likes to chat with people and get up in their business, but in a playful way, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I
I'm still grappling with crowd work. I don't do it much, as you know, or at all, because I don't know. It's you open a door. You open a door for heckling, and when you are not, when you're not, you don't have something prepared. It depends on the audience you have. Sometimes I read the audience and I do it, but also we get shorter sets, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, it's it's not like we're at some place in life where we've got like an
exactly.
hour to fill,
And
So
I've gotten longer sets than I do it a little bit.
right.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
With that said, though, I've seen like when I saw Rich Voss, I feel like probably 40 minutes of his hour-long show, I feel like he was interacting with the crowd. I feel like it was that back and forth banter, and like he had just people placed all around the audience that his attention was going toward, and he interacted, and then he was just creating scenarios and riffing, and he made that last at least 40 minutes, and it was incredible. I mean, it was very specific to the people who were there.
How do you deal with the whole having the name Karen and the whole idea of Karen having become like the annoying,
Yeah.
middle-aged, predominantly white woman that
Yeah.
complains and is a party pooper and
Yeah, I've been
talk to
approaching
managers?
I've been approaching it more like more as a victim, like of having the name, than like I don't steer into the skid and be like, I'm going to say a bunch of stuff that Karen would say. Although I do see how that could be a very funny way to end a bit, like to start off like super defensive, like I always do, about, how it's just like a horrible time, to be a Karen right now, and how, take it in, you're looking at me, and the last of the Karens, you're never going to see another Karen again. And I go into the whole bit about like, nobody naming their kids Karen anymore. And, how like,
And it's a beautiful name. It's so sad. And all the Karens I know are nothing like that.
yeah. Well, thanks.
But I think it's because a lot of women were named Karen, at some point in the late 60s or early 70s. And that's the name that's kind of your stereotypical middle-aged lady. Yeah, frankly, I don't think I know that many Karens. I don't know any Karen that's under 45.
Yeah, and you're not going to meet any under. Well, you're definitely not going to meet any young new ones. There's not going to be any young ones. I mean, unless like some new set of parents just so happens to be like looking into their baby's eyes and they're like, honey, look, she's a salty, racist little bitch. Oh,
Well, my name is also a name from those times.
Well, Karen used to mean warm and compassionate.
Frozen.
Oh yeah, you're freezing a little bit. Karen used to be warm and compassionate. Like if you look it up in a baby name book, a very old baby name book, it'll say nice things about people. Something.
The new baby books nowadays will say, Karen, just
salty racist
stay away
bitch,
from this.
President of a homeowners association, ring camera aimed at the Hispanic neighbor's quinceanera. Like it'll say things like that now.
Yeah.
Look
Cop
it up.
caller.
Yeah, basically.
Lady who doesn't return my ball.
Yeah. So it's kind of wild hearing my name just kind of thrown around as an insult word, especially like, some Karen cut me off in traffic or some Karen did. And I'm like, I'm right here. But it's,
my name is also from those times. And I bet you have not met a Sandra that's under 45 either.
I have one.
Have you?
I have one Sandra. She's, do you know who Nick Cerniglia is? He's a comedian. He's also a musician. His brother, Ben, is married to her. So now she's Sandra Cerniglia, but she's early 30s, I want to say, and I work with her.
Okay.
I work with her, but she does have a connection to the world of comedy through her family. But
That's interesting because
She's not
I
30s.
don't.
Sandra. Yeah.
I,
It was so funny
I
though, because when
don't.
we threw her, we had a shower for either when she was getting married or when they started their family. I don't remember which party it was, but the cake decorator, even though we gave them the right spelling, they wrote Sandra on the cake, which they wrote,
Yes.
congratulations, Sandra. They added a U, which was like, why
Yeah.
would you throw a U in someone's name? But yeah, it was,
Yeah. That's the question that I get every single time without fail.
yeah.
How do you pronounce your name? How do you spell it?
Mhm.
And I thought, man, I I didn't know that would become such a complication. Actually, my parents decided to give me that name because it's a standard name that exists in Spanish and in English. And that way everybody would be able to pronounce it. It's a name that goes with any last name because it's very universal. And later, I think there was like a movie star or something that was Sandra, Saundra. And I think it's her fault because before that, everybody was Sandra. And then there were Sandras with an O. And
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
and I've seen it Sawndrara.
No.
And I thought, well, are they asking me because maybe I sound like I say it with an open A or a closed A? They want to make sure they say it like I say it. But no, it's because people actually spell it very different. And I'm like, why get creative with that? And in the past, I used to say, well, just say. I used to say it. Say it. It's like Sandra D. If the person that's asking me is older,
That's
I
who
use
came
that
to mind
example.
for me, though. There was a Hollywood starlet, Sandra D.
Yeah, but
Right?
young people have no idea of who that is. So I
Okay.
have to say it's like Sandra Bullock.
Oh yeah. Well, no, she's
I
way
have to
more
use
current.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to use someone younger.
Yeah.
But younger than her, I don't think there's, anybody because it's a name from those times too. And I'm like, man, I was just so close to being, to having my name being used as a symbol for annoying
Yeah.
mature ladies that ruin everybody's fun. Have you been called a Karen? Like
Haven't-
for those reasons? People
Uh,
who don't know you and they say, well, Karen, this Karen.
yeah. I mean, I get teased. But it's like I've
No,
never
like in a serious situation. Have you been?
not serious. No, thankfully, never in a
I
serious.
have. I have.
Oh wow. Yeah. No,
I
I've never.
have.
I haven't. It hasn't happened in any kind of serious context, but like I mean, like early on, like when I even like years ago, my kids they had a school project where they had to write a funny skit for class, and the lady who complains to the manager, they named her Karen. And I was like, why did you pick that name? That's your mom's name, honey. And she was like, you don't get it. And then when I did get it, I was like, oh no, like it was better when I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, but at first I thought they meant specifically me as the character. I was like, oh, that's not cool. She's using my name as this. But then when I realized, I have to hope they meant the generalized one and not the specific to me one. It was weird though. Oddly, that character also worked at the same school for 26 years and is divorced and 50 years old and lives in Spring City. But otherwise, me and that Karen have nothing in common. So I think she just meant like all the Karens and not just me. But yeah, I honestly, I've always had my names teased. Like I've always had like growing up with Schwartz as a last name. When Spaceballs came out, it was May the Schwartz be with you. I got the Schwartz jokes for May the Schwartz be with you with the Spaceballs stuff.
Well, for me, I've been called Karen in serious contexts because I mean, there are times when we have to complain, and it's a legitimate reason, or at
Yeah.
least we all think it's legitimate. So and I check myself. I'm like, man, I sound like I'm not going to return their ball.
Mhm.
And at first I thought, wait a minute, I'm brown. I'm Karen proof. But apparently
Actually, you're safe. You are safe.
I'm safe. No, I'm not.
You're like
I'm
safe.
not.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
Nobody's safe. No, I've been called Karen by white people. By white people, Karen.
It's
And I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous.
right.
It's just yeah, no. It's ridiculous. But I've been teased also because of my last name. In Spanish, dos. I mean, there is no such thing as a double S because an S. You can say it for as long as for forever. Stay in the S, or say it short and it's an S. Double S's don't exist. So it's pronounced just like DOS, and that means the number 2. Or that famous operative system when computers came out, that
DOS. Yeah.
whatever, yeah. And I wanted to say that because I want to sound like I know about computers, but I don't, people. I do not. That's where my knowledge ends, and it's because I was teased because it sounds like a number. And guess what? There was another Sandra in my class, and we're very good friends. So people thought that is how we differentiated ourselves. That's how people knew that they were talking about me or about her. And sometimes they would call her Uno because they thought in that. I'm like, wait, no, this is not this is not something that we came up with. This is my last name, really. Also, do you think I would call myself the number 2? No,
right.
I would go. I would pick the 1. I would pick the 2. Ironically, I once was at a party and I met a guy. This was also in Panama, and I met some guy whose last name was Uno.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, but it was Japanese. A Japanese person with the last name Uno. So phonetically in Spanish, that sounds like the number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2. And I'm like, okay, different number. I guess we have to find more people with the next number, etc. But yeah, I was teased. About that. But it was all playful, not something traumatic, fortunately. But it was, the 70s also, when people could tease and there were no consequences, and are tough personas of comedians that are mature, that grew up in times when there were no padded surfaces. You fell off the swing and you had third-degree burns from the gravel on the ground.
I do remember a lot of gravel in my childhood. There was a lot of gravel. So much gravel.
So much gravel.
And today they don't know. They don't know. They don't have the gravel that we.
I don't know what it's like. Yeah, and it's the hot metal going down the slide. Also, man, they replaced all that.
Yeah, all of it. Basically, everything we grew up playing on has all been deemed deadly and unfit for children, and not on a playground anymore. All of it. That thing that you would you'd have to run around in a circle to make it spin, and then you would get it going fast, and you would just kind of jump on.
They banned those, didn't they?
Oh yeah, those are yeah.
Yeah, and they were deadly. Frankly, I think they were, because the argument that I read at some point was that of course, kids could get caught, get trapped. They could fall under, and that thing's spinning, and it would just turn you into I don't know.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be good.
Beef or whatever.
Yeah.
And we all use those things. I mean, I remember my biggest issue with that particular ride was that I don't like things that spin. They tend to make me dizzy and I throw up. So many times when I decided to use that, I would throw up on people. And And that, yeah, some people have bad memories of me from the playground. I don't want to be near her at the playground. Don't shake her. Don't stir her. No. What were those things? Merry-go-round? No.
I think they called them that. I think they actually called them a merry. There was nothing merry about it, though. It was
nothing.
It's like a vomitron is really what it,
Are you looking it up?
I am. I'm totally looking it up. Oh my gosh. Playground.
Yeah. I tried to get the tan.
Yeah, they call them merry-go-rounds.
Yeah.
And some guy is still selling them. Yeah, roundabout. They call them roundabouts too.
Yeah, maybe now they look different. They're more. Maybe they're safer now. I don't know.
Playground spinners. Yeah.
Maybe now they have some safeguards or whatever, make them better for kids.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm just glad I don't have to go to a playground anymore.
Right. Be glad you don't have to do playground duty. I get to supervise a playground most days of the week while just like the Lord of the Flies is all going on for 30 minutes and 150.
I bet you love it. I bet you like it.
Just chasing each other with sticks.
Yeah.
We have the nicest playground you've ever seen anywhere. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars went into the equipment. And still we, you're going to always have the kids chasing each other with sticks and throwing rocks or whatever. Like, yeah, it's just.
That's the part that I dread, Yeah. That's the part that I dread. That's always going to happen. Yeah. And then you're a Karen when you're like, hey, no.
Oh, yeah. When I'm ruining their fun. Like, hey, stop yelling, kill Piggy and tackling him.
Yeah.
Animal heads on sticks. Yes. Please stop that. No, I ruin all their fun. I'm horrible. So
yeah. What can you do? I mean, you're not going to get somebody get beaten up. You can't. You have to stop that.
No, I do. I have to. Yes. I'm responsible for their safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think do you have any like wrap up statement? Because for me, like the whole time, like even just as we were talking about our own lives and the things that we find that are funny in them, I think for me to feel like a more of a genuine connection to any audience is if I feel like what I'm giving them it can be exaggerated to make it funnier, but at the end of the day, it needs to be autobiographical. Like it's got to be sincere. And for me, for me to like really be able to do it, correctly, it would have to be coming from there. It
has to come from a place of truth. Yeah. And it's your take on things. It's an exaggerated version for us because neither of us do transform into a character. And I don't think I want to do that, but you never know. But no, I doubt it. It's just having fun. I'm not there to. Another thing is that my style is not political, or at least not at this point. So I just want to have fun. The objective is to spend some time just disconnecting and laughing together and being silly, because silliness is very important for me. That's where my voice goes, to the silly.
Exactly.
To the silly. I'm not going to make a statement. Not for me. That, I like to laugh with everybody of every walk of life, and no matter how they look, ethnicity or nationality, or whether they eat zucchini or not, or,
Yeah.
It's just chasing that funny. There you go. I think I got a good.
You're doing like a Miss America hand. You're doing like a Miss America wave.
So, to our viewers,
To our viewers.
hey, about that. So, that's it for our podcast, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Stay tuned for some upcoming episodes.
It was fun, Karen.
It was a lot of fun, Sandra. And stay tuned for our next ones. We're we're going to be bringing on some fun people for our audience to meet over the next, 1 or 2.
That's right.
So we're looking forward to
also, if you
bringing some of the
are
funny people from our lives into yours. So
right. And also, if you are in the Philadelphia area, we have our monthly show on August
first.
1st.
It's always the first
Thursday of August.
And yes, and it's always so. You can even just open your calendar right now and set them all up. There, it will always be on the first Thursday of each month.
Always the first
At
Thursday.
PJ Ryan's on Bridge Street in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
In Phoenixville, very near Philadelphia, very near Valley Forge
We're
Park.
in the basement.
Do your sightseeing in the park, and then come to Phoenixville and get a laugh, and that will round up your Thursday.
Exactly.
So, see you on the next episode. Bye.
Hey, how you doing? This is Neil Wood, one of the co-owners of Drop 10 Media Network and who helps run Biggest Little Comedy. You can check out all the other stuff we do at drop10.com. We've got podcasts, live comedy shows, and so much more. Go over there, support your favorite podcasts, follow them, subscribe. We appreciate it, and we're 100% DIY. Just a bunch of creatives trying to make it in this, and give us some feedback. We always enjoy a little feedback. Thanks.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.